First Peter is a complicated book. There's a lot of language about being subservient, staying in the position where you are, and there's a lot of talk of suffering. So in this case, First Peter gets used as a book to justify why people suffer or why we have to go through the sufferings we do. And here in this passage in 1 Peter chapter 3, we're going to see the author tie suffering with baptism, with Noah, and the covenant that God makes with Noah that we use as a rainbow. Haven't seen too many of those lately, but eventually this spring we'll see some, and be reminded of that covenant that God made with Noah. And also with the resurrection after the crucifixion for Jesus, and the suffering that Jesus went through. And all of that gets smushed in these 4 little verses through the lens of baptism. And the author here in 1 Peter is making this really conscious decision to use baptism as the metaphor for the way that we as followers of Christ can take our suffering and use that as a lens through all the other ways that God has made covenant with the creation and with humanity. We can take that baptism and make that a lens for a path to help us not overcome our suffering, but name it and see it for what it is, and therefore have power over it. So this passage gets used frequently by people to subjugate others or to have power over others, and that's not the correct context. So here now, this word from 1 Peter, it is a very succinct, but I think a very revelationary, very, very incredible passage to hear.
Hear now this reading from 1 Peter on our Lenten journey. For Christ also suffered for sins once for all, the righteous for the unrighteous, in order to bring you to God. He was put to death in the flesh, but made alive in the Spirit, in which also he went and made a proclamation to the spirits in prison, who, in former times, did not obey, when God waited patiently in the days of Noah, during the building of the ark, in which a few, that is, 8 people, were saved through water. And baptism, which this prefigured, now saves you, not as a removal of dirt from the body, but as an appeal to God for good conscience, through the resurrection of Jesus Christ, who has gone into heaven, and is at the right hand of God, with angels, authorities, and powers made subject to him.